All right, let's get started. Hopefully everybody has their Kali warmed up, ready to go. I should also note, if you're still having trouble with Kali, we do have office hours on Friday. Chromium works if you have Google Chrome installed. If you're on Windows and you couldn't get Kali working, Google Chrome will also work. It'll be sufficient for like 85% of this workshop. So if you don't have dirb, it's okay. You'll just have to skip out on one of the challenges, but for the rest of them, you should be okay. But try and get Kali installed. It's really good. So the Intro to Web Exploitation workshop by me, James Lowther. In this one, we're going to be teaching you a bunch of different web exploitation and sort of beginner web exploitation tips and tricks. A lot of the stuff that you're going to be learning in this is stuff that you start off with. It's what I started off with. It's very fundamental. It's very foundational, but it's still very important. And it's fun. Web exploitation is my favorite section of InfoSec. So for those of you who are new, with the idea of sort of challenge flags with information security, and especially with CTF challenges, what we're looking for are pieces of text, which are known as flags. For example, this is a flag here. You can see generally they start with some prefix. Ours for our workshops is UCSEC for UCalgary Security, and then in the middle there'll be some text. You'll be looking for these in the challenges, and if you DM them to Orchid, that means direct message them to Orchid, our bot in our Discord server, you can get points and you can be on the leaderboard. So there are, I think, 150 points in this workshop that you can get. So keep an eye out for these, and good luck finding these. They're really fun. So yeah. So starting with our outline, the topics we're going to be discussing. First, we're going to be talking about basic website structure. So this means what HTML is, what CSS is, what Robots.txt is, .text, I mean. This is all very important stuff about how websites work. If you want to learn how to exploit a website, you have to know how a website works. It's that simple. We're also going to be talking about hidden directories. So these are directories that aren't directly linked. So like sort of web pages that you can access, but it might not be 100% clear that you can access them. We're going to be looking at cookies, delicious cookies. You might have heard about them, might not know what they are. People always say clear cookies, and that fixes stuff on your website for some reason. We're going to be looking at what cookies are and how they can sometimes be exploited. And then finally, we're going to be talking about user agents. So pieces of text that get sent to the server whenever you connect, and they sort of say who you are, what machine you're running, and maybe how we can exploit that, which is really neat. So part one, we're going to be talking about website structure. So the basic site structure of a website. So for very basic websites and the sites that we're going to be using in this workshop, we're going to be mainly talking about sites that consist of HTML and CSS files. So when you have a very basic web server, whenever you connect to the website, it'll look in a folder on the server for something called index.html. So this will be like the document root. So like the main part of the server will be example site. If you connect to examplesite.com, it will send you the HTML for index.html. What you'll notice is that the way that, for very basic sites, the way that websites and URLs are structured is very similar to how sort of the folder structure works on your computer. So if you were to go to examplesite.com/activities/indoor/camping.html, you would then get this file here. So the way you can traverse a website is sort of analogous to the way that you would traverse the files on your actual computer on your server. And then what happens is the web server will then send you this HTML file to your computer, and it'll get rendered into the web page that you see. So this is important because if you want to traverse a website without having to click all the links, you can do that by going through the folder style similar to this. Yeah. So what is HTML? What is CSS? Might not have heard of this before. That's okay. HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language. And so what this means is it's sort of a text file that just contains site content. It'll only really say what should be, it defines what is on the website. So here we should have an image. Here we should have a header and a title. Here we should have a paragraph, but it doesn't make it look very good. It's just sort of what should we put on the page? I don't really care what it looks like. And that's where CSS comes in. The cascading style sheets, they define how to make HTML look pretty and defines how HTML renders. We'll look at some HTML and some CSS, see what it looks like in a minute, and how you can find it for a website. And sort of the tools that Chrome and Chromium, and even a lot of other browsers like Firefox and Safari let you use to view this stuff sort of as a developer would. So as I was saying, on the left here, we have an example website. We don't have any CSS. It's just without any CSS, it's not styled. So it's really just from top to bottom. Here we have a title. Here we have a paragraph. Here we have a picture, more paragraphs, etc. But as soon as you add the CSS to the file, you can make it look slightly more pretty. I know this site doesn't look very pretty currently. It's not the most beautiful site, but you get the idea. We added some colors. We centered some text here. We made the image a little smaller, centered that as well. That's what CSS does. So where can we look for flags? Look for flags hidden in HTML and CSS. A lot of the times people will add comments to these files, and it couldn't contain a password. Somebody might put a password in there. In our case, we're probably going to hide some flags there maybe. But like I said before, when you have the unstyled and the styled HTML, how do we set which CSS file makes this render all pretty like this? It uses something known as a link tag, and it looks like this. You'll find this in the HTML document somewhere. It'll say link. It'll say it's a style sheet for CSS. Type is text CSS. The main part that you want to look at is the CSS/styles.css. This could be anything. What this is essentially the URL for the CSS file that the HTML file is using to render all nice. So if you find this, if you're on google.com and you look at the HTML for google.com and you see this link, you can then do google.com/css/styles.css, and that'll bring you to the CSS file. So I would look in both files and see, is there anything hidden in here? And if there is, maybe use it to break into the server. Who knows? There could be anything. So the important part, how to actually view the HTML and the CSS files. This is important. We want to see what it looks like. In Chromium, we use inspect. In Firefox, we use inspect element. They're the same thing. They have similarities. For us, Chromium is the easiest one. It's kind of nice. Or it's Control-Shift-I to get into that, or you can right-click on the page and just click inspect. I'll show you how to do that in a second. Second to that, you can also use curl. This is the more hackery way. Curl is a command line tool, and what this does is you do curl, tac L, and then the URL, and that will actually show you. That'll just sort of spit out all the text to your terminal. A lot of people sometimes don't even use Chromium; they just go straight to curl. But let's quickly demo that. So let me switch my screen here. Let's see. So here we have Kali Linux. You should all be familiar, should have it open. Let's open Chrome. Here we have Chrome. Let's go to google.ca, basic google.ca. What you can do, you right click. At the bottom here, you'll see inspect. This will open it. So here, everything we have here, this is all HTML. You'll see as I mouse over different tags, different things light up. That's saying that this tag, this div here corresponds to this area on the screen. You don't really need to know how to code in HTML, CSS for this workshop, so don't worry if this is a little bit confusing for you. If we look in the head, we can click on these little arrows to open it, and we'll see a bunch of different tags. It doesn't look like they're using CSS. This is Google. They do it some fancy way. If you're looking for the link tag for the CSS, you'd probably find it somewhere in here, in the head section. And then I can just quickly demo curl. This is the recommended way. This is the easy way. If you want to do it the more difficult way, you can do curl, tac capital L, and then paste the website you want to use. So if we do this, it'll spit out a bunch of text. But what you'll see is this text is actually the same as what's shown here. Why would you want to do it this way? Because what you can do is you can pipe it into different um, applications, like the ones that Jeremy showed in our last meeting. Grep for something, I don't know. We'll grep for all the divs, and it'll find them all. It's really nice if you know with the flag style, you can grep and find the flag that way. That's really nice. So keep that in mind. You can use either or for this workshop. It doesn't really matter. Let's just share this back here. Okay. And finally, we have robots.txt. This is something that most websites have. What it does is it tells certain applications or certain web crawlers which sites they are not allowed to look at. So, for example, the Google.com search engine, what it does is it has all of their little web crawlers that crawl the web and look for different websites, look for updates, so that they can update their own website and search engine. But if you don't want Google's web crawler to be looking at certain web pages, you would say put that in the robots.txt. So, for example, here this is the one I pulled from the ucalgary.ca website. To find the robots.txt file, you go to www.ucalgary.ca/robots.txt, and that'll give you a file. So what this is saying is, for all user agents, don't search for these directories. Keep these hidden. So that's something you should definitely be looking for. Go add from the website, put /robots.txt and see what you can find. See what websites might be hidden in there. Sometimes you'll find flags. Who knows? If you have any questions, just post them in the comments and I'll try and get to them. But for now, we should have a challenge. If you go to this website, it might look a little bit weird. If you type http://134.209.163.2 and then a :8080, you'll get to the first challenge. And there are 4 flags on this website. See if you can find them all and DM them to Orchid and get points. It's really fun. What you're going to want to do is use everything that I've taught you, looking at HTML, looking at CSS files, robots.txt, maybe some other stuff, poke around, see what you can find. We'll give you 20 minutes to let you do that. Yeah, put that in your web browser. Thank you. This is a website. All right, so E4C5 is asking, is there a way to curl the CSS file? Yep, you should be able to. So when I used curl -l the URL, all you'd have to do is change the URL to actually be the URL pointing to the CSS file. So you might remember in the link here, we had the URL and then the href was pointing to CSS styles.css. So if you do URL/styles/CSS, it might be different on the actual challenge. You can curl using that URL instead of just the main one. All right, I kind of want to get just a little bit of a poll here on where people are at on a scale of 1 to 10. Maybe post in chat where 1 is really easy and you're bored, where 10 is really hard and you're frustrated. Where are people at? And how many flags have you guys gotten? Nice. People are getting 3 to 4, 3 to 4, 4 to 4. Nice. It's really good. I'll give it a few more minutes for some other people here. And if you're frustrated, stick around. I'll be going through how to find all of these in detail afterwards. Also, if you got them using inspect element, try getting them using curl and grep. See if you can do it the same way. Nice. 4 to 4 flags for some people. Make sure you DM the Orchid bot and direct message. Don't post it in the server chat. Actually message Orchid and you'll get flags. And you'll get points, I mean, sorry. All right, I'll give it another 45 seconds to a minute here and we'll go through it. All right, let's go through it here. Let me switch back to Kali. So we're back in Cali. Let's just go through it quickly. 8080. So we have our website. Looking at it, you can't really see much going on here. There's not really much other than just some text with the moon landing. First thing that you should always do whenever you get to a new website is look at the HTML and CSS code. If we open inspect element, immediately right there, flag 1 of 4, hidden in the HTML, in an HTML comment. The comments you can see are enclosed in these two different tags, this bracket, exclamation mark, tac, 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 and then the other bracket, angle bracket. You can find them there. If you look in the head section, like we were looking at before, you'll see a link to a CSS style sheet here with the relative path being css_files/styles.css. So if we go there, css_files/styles.css. Oh. Oh. That's where this works. Try this again. CSS file. Yeah. Let's just copy it. There we go. We have our CSS. This is what CSS looks like. And at the very bottom, if we scroll all the way down, we'll be able to see flag 2 of 4, the UCSec. CSS makes sites look pretty. That's how you get the second one. If we wanted to do that with curl, we would do curl, tac L, add our URL, and then we can grep it looking for UCSec. If we do that, it'll pull it out for us right here. As what was asked before, if we want, should we do able to do CSS style, CSS files, style, CSS, and we'll find the second one to get the CSS version. Again, just to reiterate what was taught last lecture, if we look at the man page for curl, you can type man curl. You can see exactly how it's supposed to work. You can read through this and see, get a bit of a manual on how this should be done if you're ever confused, and press Q to quit. For our next one, what we can do, if we go up here, let's look at robots.txt. Do that, it says user agent. User agents, we're going to disallow area 51. This is the slash is saying a relative path based on our base URL here. So if we go area 51.html, here we go. We get a little robot, and we get our third flag for third one we found. And the final one, some of you might have noticed at the bottom here, you'll see a little Nyan cat fly by. There are a bunch of different ways to do this. It's kind of too quick to read. You could have taken a screenshot. You could have taken a screenshot on that one, or what you can do is you can go into your inspect element. Hopefully this is an okay size. It's tough to better. Do a little bit of searching. What you'll see is there is if I can find it too, a marquee here. In this div, there's something, it's a little bit hidden, something called tag.html. This is sort of slightly hidden. If you go to /tag.html, it'll give you the flag here. This is one way of doing it. I think the easier way of doing it might have just been to actually just take a screenshot as it flies by, or maybe you can read really fast. That's also an option. But yeah, that's how you get all the flags. And we'll continue on. Okay, continuing on, hidden directories. These are kind of fun. So what do I mean when I say hidden directories? So when I talk about a hidden directory, normally when you have a website, there's a bunch of links and buttons you can click on. You click on the home button, it takes you home. You click on the account button, then it takes you to the account. Takes you to the account. What's happening is when you click on these buttons, it's switching you to a different URL. So it might take you from google.com/home to google.com/users to account, etc. What a hidden directory is a directory on a website that is not directly linked to. So it exists, you can access it, but you really only can access it if you know the directory path. So it could be something really obscure. You'd never be able to guess it. But you could access, if you were lucky enough to type it in, you could get there. Sometimes these directory paths you're not supposed to be able to read, you're not supposed to be able to access, but you can if the web or server is sort of poorly configured. So for example, we have example.com and this really long, arduous path that is not directly linked, and then maybe there's a flag at the end, who knows? But the main thing to consider is that if you don't really know exactly where it is, it's very tough for you to find it. So the question is, how do we do that? Before we go into that, one thing to note is there's two types of ways that a website will show you information. If you go to a directory, sometimes it might be indexed. So what this means is if you go to a specific URL, it'll say go to index. If you go to, I don't know, example.com/test, it might show you all of the directories and files that exist. So that directory would be indexed. But more often than not, it'll say forbidden. You don't have access to this resource. So in this case, you know, okay, that path actually exists. That URL actually exists, but we don't have permission to access it. Which is good to know. It can give you some information. Let's continue on here. What do we do if these files aren't directly linked? If we don't have a way to click on a link and get to them, what do? We use a program called dirb. Dirb stands for Directory Buster. It's a command line tool, and it's a web content scanner. This might sound really scary. Dirb is actually very easy to use, and it's included in Kali. So in order to use dirb, we need a word list, and all a word list is a text file containing a bunch of really commonly used directory names that a lot of people use. I'll show you what a word list looks like in a second here. You'll see it's really not that scary. And what dirb does is it goes one by one through every single word in the word list, and it checks it on that URL. So if it'll say, okay, let's go to example.com/CSS. Does that exist? Yes or no? Example.com/HTML. Does that exist? Yes or no? And it'll do this for every single file in the word list. Kali Linux includes some word lists at a following path. At /user share word lists and then dirb, and you'll find a bunch in there. Normally, if you're actually trying to do this, sort of to break into a box or to hack another website, which we don't condone, ethically hack another website, I should say. I recommend using common.txt or big.txt, which have a lot of words in them. Just in the sake of time for this workshop, I recommend small.txt for this workshop. So let's just quickly take a look at what a word list actually looks like. Let's see. Back to Kali. Sorry before if you couldn't see it. So, like I said, Kali Linux includes a bunch of word lists. It's one of the really nice thing about Kali is it comes pre-installed with everything you need. So if we change the directory to user, share, word lists, dirb, it'll be a directory. If we list everything that's there, we'll have a bunch of txt files. If we actually look at the size of these files, some of them are pretty big. This is a very big file. The small.txt, it's about 6 megabytes, which is more manageable for us. The big.txt is much larger. So let's take a look here. So if I do cat small.txt, see, it's very simple. It's just a list of words, and it's a word list. So what dirb will do when we pass in the sort of a website and a word list, it'll first go, let's say we passed in www.example.com, it'll first go check www.example.com/0. Then it'll check /00, then /01. It'll check /admin/csv. And it'll go through every single word in this word list. And if it finds a directory for admin in admin, it'll then do it recursively. So what this means is if, admin is a is a hidden directory, it'll then do example.com/admin and start all over again, admin/0 until it finds everything. You might imagine that this takes a really, really long time for really, really big word lists. Also, this could, I don't know, it could theoretically be considered a DDoS. And what I mean by that is where we're just continuously pinging the server, checking different, trying to connect a bunch of times, checking each of these directories, and that might overwhelm the server. This is going to be really interesting when we try this. Hopefully it doesn't overwhelm our server. If it does, oops, but hopefully that doesn't happen. And one more thing, if you're man dirb, man page for dirb, so dirb the URL base and then the word list file to use it. And I'll have all of this posted on the slide when we actually do the challenge here. Let me switch back. So here we go. Like I just said, to use dirb, the URL base. So what I mean by base is just sort of the google.com or the example.com part, sort of the root part of the directory of the URL, and then the word list path. You can also add some options. You shouldn't need it for what we're about to do. So for example, dirb example.com, and then the word list. This is using big. I recommend small.txt in this path for the next challenge. So let's give it a shot. It's the same website as before, and see if you can find anything hidden. There should only be one flag for this challenge. Cody Clark is just asking, I assume you don't need to include the long file path if you're in the directory with the word lists. Yep, that's correct. You should be able to just do ./ and then the file name. And that should work. Normally you don't run this in the file with you're not always in the file in the directory with the word list. So it's good to know the full path name. You'll commit it to memory after a while, but you don't need to do that. Exploitation is asking, in the real world, would this be too noisy for something like a pen test? It's tough to say. You could try it. It should be okay. It likely would light up a SIEM. Yeah, it's tough to say, but the issue is there really is no other way to find these hidden directories. So you're kind of stuck doing this. Yeah, no, post in chat if you get the flag. Not the flag, but if you got it. And let us know how long it took to run. I'm curious to see how long it takes for everybody when we're all hitting the server at the same time. Still going. Oh no. One other thing I want to note is sometimes when you're doing it, dirb might say you found 0 things, but read a little bit higher and see what it actually found. Um, Sometimes it'll find a directory and it might say, oh, this directory is indexable. Like I was mentioning before, when it's indexable, it says it'll show all the contents in that file or in that folder, sorry, in that directory. But it'll say it didn't find anything, but it did. It found that folder above. So make sure you pay attention to that if you're confused about why derb's not finding anything. Yeah, for people are using big.txt and it's taking a really long time. It is a very big file. It's very comprehensive. A lot of the times, what you'll do is right when you get started, when you're trying to break a box, you'll say, "Okay, I'm running dirb. That's the first thing I'm doing," and you'll just leave it on in the background because it takes so long to find anything. Um, Jeremy is asking, yep. Is it already on Kali? Yeah, it should already be on Kali. Looks like Cody posted below user share word lists, and then in the directory dirb, there's a bunch there. Nice, got it. Good. There's only one flag in this one, Technicolor. I'll give it another 3 or 4 minutes. Looks like it might be taking different people different amounts of time depending on the speed of their computer. Let me know if you can't find the word lists. There's a possibility that you have to extract them. It's possible. But just post in chat and I'll see if I can help you out. Or we can get some execs to help you. Oh, nice, Jeremy. You got it. Nice. I'm currently running it too. I'm in the middle. I want to show people, but I don't want to make you wait. Alrighty, let's switch over to Kali here and see what we can find. Let's see. So here we have our dirb output. The small.txt generated 959 words. I use small.txt, and like what was asked before, I was in the directory, user share word lists dirb, and I just ran it using /small.txt, so I could do it like this, just because I was already in the word list directory here. So yep, we generated this many words in that word list. First it found content, then it found content applet, then it found content applet devs. And if we look down here, it said we found nothing, but that's not entirely true. If we read just above, it entered this directory, content applet devs. It says, warning, directory is listable or indexable, like we were saying before. So copy this, paste it. We go here, indexable. And we have our flag.txt, and you can get the flag this way. All of the ones before, if you tried to go here, it'll say forbidden. You don't have access to this resource. The reason that we knew that this was here is it didn't say 404 not found. So if we go to content applet and then type some random stuff, it'll say not found. It means the URL was not on this server, but this doesn't say not found. This says forbidden. So this is how we know that just there is something here. This is how dirb knows, okay, there is something here. We just can't see it until we go to devs, where it's not forbidden, it's indexable, and we can find the flag this way. So really, there's no very reasonable way for you to guess this URL, content applet devs. So that's why we use dirb. I suppose I can also show, if you're a little bit unfamiliar with the command line, it's still scary. That's okay. Kali also has a version called dirbuster, which is very similar. If it'll load here, it's a GUI version. What you do is you put the target URL in here. I'm naturally going to run it because that would take too long. You put the target URL in here. It'll ask for a word list. We browse, and then you browse to the word list you want. You'd want to use, and then just click start. And this will do essentially the same thing as dirb, but in a nice GUI-based format. Awesome. Oh, let's share the tab and not the screen. Sorry about that. Okay, part 3, cookies. We've already got a lot of flags. A few more left in this workshop. This is really interesting. The cookies are very interesting. So what are cookies? Cookies are pieces of data sent from a website and stored on your computer. This is important to note that cookies are stored locally on your computer. They are managed by your browser. They're not stored on the server. They are stored on your computer. And what they store is different information about authentication data. It could be tracking IDs or saved form data. So what I mean by this is when you connect to a website and you log in, the website will tell your computer, hey, or your browser, I mean, hey, you should store this number somewhere on your computer and associate it with our website. So if you sign into Google, Google stores a specific user ID as in a cookie on your browser, and then the next time you connect to that website, your browser will send the cookie to the server, and it'll say, "Hey, this is the cookie. This is the sort of ID you told me to save. This is who I am," so that you can sort of authenticate yourself. And this is why every time you go to YouTube or you go to Google, you don't have to sign in every time, because the cookies on your computer are being saved, saying this is the account I'm signed in as. This is what I'm going to use to authenticate. But what's really interesting about cookies, and very scary if you don't know how to use them as a web developer, is because they are stored locally, they can be edited by you. And by you, I mean the client, the person connecting to the website. And if this is done incorrectly, this allows for exploitation. So let's keep going here. Accessing cookies. Firefox allows you to change cookies. Safari should. This is how you do it in Chrome. So when you go into your Chromium browser, you go into inspect element, I should say, or inspect. First, you click on application on the top bar. It should default to elements. Just click on application. Then click down on cookies, and it'll show you all of the websites that have cookies, and then it will show you your results for the cookies here. Hopefully me showing you these cookies doesn't allow you to break into my Google account. I didn't think about that until now. Hopefully that's not an issue. So nobody take a screenshot of this. Yeah. I can quickly demo that. Let's see. So here, let's go back here. Right click, inspect at the top, application right here. We click on application. Then we click on cookies. I don't have any cookies on this site, so nothing will show up. And then you can click the down arrow to find the cookies for this website. If I click, there's nothing in here. This website doesn't save any information about you, but that's how you find it. So as I said before, sites that use cookies improperly can be hacked. Information that a user can be changed, i.e. cookies, should be treated very carefully. If you use cookies as a way to authenticate, you have to do that very carefully, and there's ways to do it. The way in the challenge you might have guessed is doing it improperly, and that's sort of very interesting. So here we go, another challenge. This is the same IP. It's just using 8081 instead of 8080. So you can go to the next challenge from there. And I'll give you a bit of time for this one. Yep. If you're using Firefox, you might see in the chat, there are some external extensions you can use to find cookies. This might be a good one. I haven't used it, but it seems okay. It's from Emily, one of the execs. Also, some of the execs actually do use a leet speak translator, and I think that's very lazy of them. These are written by hand. Becomes a second language. It's like cursive. Once you know how to do it, you just do it very easily. Also, post in chat and let me know where you are. Let me know how it's going. If you find this really easy, if you're stuck anywhere, let me know and I can maybe give you guys a hint. Oh, you see the admin name. Okay. One thing I should mention is that when you want to actually edit a cookie, you just double click on the text where you want to edit, and it should let you edit. Once you change the cookie, you have to then refresh your page in order to actually resend that request and send that cookie back to the server. You see a cookie, but it's empty. Cody, have you tried logging in first with anything before you check it, look at your cookies? And make sure you're on the new site. I'll give it a few more minutes here before we move on. I'll do a demo for those who are stuck. Oh, Cody got it. Nice. All right, I'll give it another 15 seconds and we'll move on. Good old SQL injection. I agree. SQL injection is my favorite way to break into things. We have a workshop on SQL injection, a beginner workshop that I'm teaching on SQL injection. You should all join that one. It's really interesting and very practical too. All right, I think I'm going to move on here. Let me just switch over to Kali. So let's just quickly demo how to do this one. When we log in, when we go to when we get to the website, we see this login page. Atypical to normal logins, we can just type anything in here. James 1234. Log in. Nope, you've logged in as James, but you are not an administrator. What we know is that we can look at the cookies, and so let's just take a look, inspect. Generally, because I was teaching cookies, you might know to look at them. Generally, what you can do is, okay, we can look at the HTML. Is there anything in here we can use? I don't see any comments. Okay, let's move along. Let's go look at the cookies. To do that, we go to application, cookies, and then we see the website and we click on it. There are a bunch of different cookies here. We have the password that we typed in plain text, which is very insecure. We have the username, which is James. We have the session ID, which the server might use to remember us. Next time we connect, it'll say, oh, this session ID, I remember this is James who logged in. And we have admin false. What we do know is we can edit cookies by double clicking on them. If we double click on the admin cookie, the opposite of false, we probably want to be admin. So we type true or true, and that will change that cookie to true. Nothing's changed. We have to refresh the page. So when we've refreshed, there it is. The flag is UCSec. Cookies are a good byte, and that's how you do that. Cookies are good. Always look at the cookies in some of these sites. You never know. They could be implemented correctly. I'll actually just show you the code for this website and see exactly where the vulnerability is. Let's just switch back. So like I said, using cookies as variables, so variables being like stuff like sort of checks in your code to check for user privileges is very bad because they can be edited by you, the user, the client. So this is actually the string from the, or not the string, the piece of the block of code from the actual server where that allows you to get the flag. Without looking at this if statement, if we assume the if statement is true, all that it's going to do is say you are an admin and then post the flag to the HTML. If we look in the if statement, it is saying if this admin cookie is set, it's saying, okay, does the admin cookie exist? Yes, and the admin cookie equals true. And if this evaluates to true, then the flag will be posted. Checking this is dangerous. This is not the way it should be done. So if you're ever writing your own code, avoid stuff like this. Read up on how to use cookies correctly. Yeah, there are a lot of frameworks that can help you do that, and a lot of different resources online to make sure you don't make these same mistakes. And moving on, the last section, user agents. The challenge for this one will be a little bit more challenging, manageable. And you should be able to do it. You should all be able to do it. It's not too difficult, but it does require a little bit of Googling. So what is a user agent? A user agent is a piece of information that's sent to the server, and it identifies a bunch of different stuff about the client, about you, your operating system. Are you running Mac? Are you running Windows? Are you running Linux? The vendor of your computer, the browser version. Are you using Safari? Are you using Chrome? Are you using Firefox? It essentially tells the browser what you're, the server, what you're using. And really what this is used for is if you're trying to connect with some outdated browser like Internet Explorer, the server kind of wants to know that just in case, so it can serve you content that is more compatible with a certain browser versus another. Or if you need, if some certain website functions only work with Windows, some only work with Linux, you can use the user agent sort of tells the server, hey, this is what we're running, so that they can tailor the experience better for your device. So for example, this is what it looks like for the Chrome browser. They all start with Mozilla /5.0, Windows NT, meaning we're running Windows, the vendor, and Chrome here, Chrome version 83.0. Let's continue on. So yep, the user agent format, they all start with this, some system information, the platform, some platform details, and some extensions that are used. Here, the extension, I don't exactly know what this means. There's a lot of different stuff in here. If you want, you can read up more about that. But really what we're interested in is the fact that we can actually change the user agent. And I'll show you how to do that in a second. So what is, this sort of relates back to something that I was mentioning before, which is the Googlebot web crawler. And that's what we were talking about with Robots.txt. This here is what the user agent for Googlebot's web crawler looks like. So when Google's web crawler tries to connect to a server, it will set this as its user agent. And that's how we can disallow Googlebot by saying, hey, if it's this user agent, then we can disallow that. Also, yeah, make sure to include your name and email and Discord username in the message. Yep. When you're paying club fees. So yeah, that's another reason why user agents are useful. So actually changing your user agent, I'll go through it here and I'll also quickly demo it. First you do your inspect element. Then you do inspect element, then there'll be 3 dots in the top right. You click that, you mouse over more tools, then you go to network conditions, and this sort of piece down here will pop up for network conditions. You can then select automatically, and then you can enter a custom user agent, anything you want it to be. So let's quickly go through that. And yeah, if you haven't paid your club fees, or if you want to, you don't have to, but if you want to, there's some information being posted in chat about how you can go about doing that. So let's say here, right click, go to inspect. See if I can make it bigger. 3 dots in the top corner, not these 3 dots, the one in the inspect element page. Click more tools, network conditions. And then when we scroll down, you can see our user agent. If we actually Google, what is my user agent? Some websites that can show you what they are. Here it's saying I'm connecting on Linux. I'm using Chrome 83. If we go back and actually change that, I can select automatically. I can put anything in here. Magpies are cool. I refresh the page. User agent will be read as magpies are cool. So we can change how the what the server thinks we're running. Now, magpies aren't cool isn't a valid user agent. You have to actually put in a valid user agent that matches sort of the format that I mentioned before. So now you try. This is a user agent challenge. You might have to do some Googling. Hint, you might have to do some Googling. In this, again, it's another website. It's the same IP address here using port 8082. And that might give a bit more time than the last one for this one, just because it's a little bit more challenging. So a question, why would some sites only accept certain user agents? If you're trying to connect, let's say you're using a very outdated browser like Internet Explorer, which I think it's at the end of its life. And the problem with Internet Explorer is it doesn't have a lot of the features that that more modern browsers like Chrome, Firefox, and Safari have. So some sites might straight out reject or serve different content based on your the browser that you're using. So if it uses some super fancy JavaScript library, and Internet Explorer can't can't display that, then it might serve a different library that Internet Explorer can use. That's why it's important. Also, relating to the Googlebot thing, where the Google web crawler, Google web crawler, if we want to disallow it, it has to have its very specific user agent so that we know that it is Google or Bing's web crawler trying to connect. Nice. It looks like some people are getting it. I might throw a hint out in a couple minutes here for those who are a little stuck. In chat for people where you might want to look for some Googling. There it is. So if you go to that website, you might find some useful information. All right, I might give another 3 or 4 more minutes for this one and then demo. That's a good question. How do you change the user agent on Firefox? I'm going to post a link here. That should tell you how to do it. It's a little bit more difficult than um, it's a little bit more difficult than how Chrome does it. That's why we use Chrome, but it is possible. All right, I'll give it 1 more minute and then we'll demo. All right, looks like quite a few have gotten that flag. I'll go through a quick demo on how to do that, and that might be the end of our workshop here. So stick around though, we'll go through some PicoCTF stuff after. So here we are on our secret agent website. You'll notice here that there's a big button. It says click here. If I click it, it'll say your current browser is Chrome version 83. Also, if you haven't noticed, Chromium is sort of this open source de-Googleified version of Chrome. So when we're running Chromium, it thinks we're Chrome because they're sort of one and the same. But then here you might notice it says, I only like Netscape 7.2. For those who don't know, Netscape is a very old browser. Netscape Navigator. It was used before Internet Explorer was used before Firefox and Chrome were even a thing. So what we can do is we can open up our networking conditions and we want to put in a user agent. But what do we put in? It's very difficult to say. So if I go back to that website that I posted before, see here we can switch between filtering for software, for specific operating systems. Here we want software. We can click browse all software names down here, and you'll see that it'll give us a lot of different user agents. A lot of these are crawlers. 360 Spider, web crawler, a bot, a web crawler. Like I said, these user agents are to identify the web crawlers so that they don't start crawling on web pages that a server administrator doesn't want them to. For example, with Robots.txt to define that. But what we're interested in is Netscape. We Google, or not Google, if we find in the page Netscape Navigator, there's a bunch of different user agents here. We can click on this, and here we go. We have a bunch here. Which did it want? Netscape 7.2, the version, Netscape 7.2. We can try this one here, and there we go. So we paste in the Netscape user agent that we found online, and now this website thinks we are running Netscape Navigator 7.2, and it'll give us the flag. And that's how you do that one. So that's it. Thanks for listening. That's sort of a very basic introduction to web exploitation. There's a lot you can do with web exploitation. What I really like about web exploitation is a lot of the times you can do a lot of it just with Chrome. It's very easy to get into. It's one of the ones I like the most. There's a bunch of different other paths you can go on. Make sure you join the SQL injection one that I'm going to be doing. I think Emily is doing an XXS workshop. She can correct me on that. And that's another sort of web exploitation. Hi, Emily.
Oh, hi. Yes, I'm doing a cross-site scripting workshop. Probably, I think it's at the beginning of next semester. So,
yep, make sure you check that out. And for the remainder of the workshop, we're done at 8. We're going to be just looking at what picoctf is. So you might have heard us mention picoctf. It's a beginner CTF that generally happens. I think it's every year. But what they do that's really nice is they leave their challenges up for beginners to try. This is where I started out. This is a great place to start out and try a bunch of different categories, from cryptography, from to web exploitation. A lot of the challenges that you saw today, you might see them again with the picoctf. I'll just show you what it looks like really quick. And you should definitely make an account. Do it now with me if you have time. It's worth it, trust me. You can learn a ton. So to get to picoctf, there's 2018 out. There's also 2019 out. They're both really good. I recommend starting with picoctf 2018, and then once you get comfortable with those, move over to 2019. So you have to make an account. Log into mine. You log in. There's a game here. You don't have to do that. It's sort of interesting. You can find all the problems, and the nice thing, if you want, it'll give you a shell. So what a shell means is it'll give you a terminal to their server like this. You don't have to use it. It's only required for some challenges, but that's always an option. But if we click on problems here, you can see I've solved a lot of these already. You'll see all of the challenges that are available to you. So over here, it'll say maybe web exploitation. This is worth 250 points. It has a high-ish number of solves, more than some of the other ones. It'll give you a link to the challenge. It'll give you some hints. Sometimes they don't have them. So if you click on this link, here we go. We have a website similar to the ones that I've been giving you. You try and break in and get the flag. When you get the flag, you can submit it here and get points. If you're really new to this, start at some of the more highly solved challenges. For example, some of these forensics ones, they have 45,000 solves, means they're slightly more easy. The cryptography ones, as you can see already, dropped down to 27,000, slightly more difficult, but still certainly worth trying. And I'd go through a lot of these, and you'll get really good, trust me. So if I go back to here, I have some PicoCTF challenges that are available. These are on the PicoCTF 2018. I recommend doing these ones. These will relate very closely to what we learned. Same with the 2019 ones. These will also relate very closely to what we did today. And you can practice what you've learned. So yeah, give these challenges a try. I think I'll probably just hang around here. If you have any questions, be sure to let me know. Yeah, give PicoCTF a try. And thanks for joining the workshop. And I hope you come back for some of the next ones. So Fahim is asking, when is the next workshop? We're doing these workshops every week, every Monday from 6 to 8. Yep. There we go. Every Monday, 6 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. And click that link and you can see the schedule of what's coming up next. Also, if you guys want, we might be moving over to our Discord channel if you're not on the Discord yet. Here, let me grab a link for you. Go here, click this link to join our Discord channel. We might be moving over there so we can all just sort of hang out in the chilling channel. You might notice in the streaming channel, there's a bunch of people. That's Josh doing his breaking into a box workshop. If you want to maybe catch the end of that and see what they're doing, it's very interesting. But yeah, we'll be in the chilling channel and come say hi.
Just a quick note before we shut down this stream. If you are just joining us now and you're not actually a member of the Discord, you need to make sure to text Orchid saying that you agree to the rules, not to be a jerk. Otherwise, all you're going to get is the rules channel.
Yeah, make sure you do that. All right, we might shut this down, but yeah, come join us. We'll work on some CTF stuff and we'll work on PicoCTF. It'll be a lot of fun.